If you opened this video because of what you saw in the thumbnail, then yes, I am going to explain why I dislike this anime. An anime that if you look for it in most anime communities, they consider this one to be an anime of the year candidate at a minimum. So, I have 3 reasons why I'm not fond of this show, and a bit of context before I start. I'm evidently late to the party given that this one actually released back in late June and early August. The reason I never knew about it at the time was simply due to the fact that this isn't a TV series in the same sense as most anime are. So that explains why I missed this one. But now that I've seen all 6 episodes of it, what is it that made me so stressed about this anime? The first reason why I dislike this show is simply what it is all about. It consists of 4 main characters, which comprises of an alien named Takopi and 3 human kids named Shizuka, Marina, and Naoki. Throughout the series, they basically did nothing except receive abuse. Abuse that they never should have gotten. And as someone who despises watching characters get this kind of treatment, watching this show was, at least to me, a terrible, terrible time. Because while you can cope in front of me by saying that the characters are just fictional and as such they're not real, it still doesn't erase the fact that they still experienced a disturbing childhood in their lives. The second reason why I dislike this show is how most of the community is treating this anime. If you try to look at the discussion threads of this show or simply ask the people who have seen this one, most of them would reply something along the lines of, "This story teaches us that abuse is a bad problem and kids in general deserve so much better." On the surface, the line doesn't look problematic. If anything, I also agree that abuse is bad, hence why I'm so disgusted and stressed by the events that transpired in this show. So, what's wrong with this line? When I watched this anime, I watched it like I was a witness to a horrible fate. I didn't watch it just so I could dissect the themes, the characters, the so-called lessons that one might ascribe to this show. Imagine if you or one of your loved ones had a terrible few days, and as you were telling your experiences or their experiences to a peer of yours, their response is something like, "That's why I don't do this. That's why you should never do that." Do you realize how screwed up it is to receive a response like that? It's like you had a terrible time, but to your peers, it's a case study of what to do and what not to do. Your experience became someone's scientific observation, even though you never asked to be in such a bad situation. That's how people who say they learned something from Takopi sounds like. Shizuka and the kids, they never deserved the abuse that they got in the story. They never asked to be on the receiving end of such acts. And here we are, witnessing people who say they like the show, but talk about what happened to the kids like it's a chapter in an ethics textbook. I don't know about you guys, but if you approach this anime as if you were psychoanalyzing it, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I dislike you for doing such a thing just as much as I dislike what happened to the kids. And the third and final reason as to why I dislike this show is that even if anyone tries to argue that the anime is a net positive to the community because it made its viewers talk about a real ongoing problem in any society, I simply do not like the fact that a bunch of kids had to be used this way just so people would think about these issues. I'm of the belief that If you can learn or understand something without having yourself or anyone else, fictional characters included, be at the receiving end of a bad circumstance, then you should take that opportunity instead. Imagine if, say, for example, a professor wants to teach his students that bullying is bad. And he did this by having an actual kid be bullied by another kid in front of his students. Obviously, this scenario is absurd. But that's the point. The fact that you think it's absurd goes to show that the idea that bullying is bad can actually be taught without making others experience the consequences of such. Likewise, the idea that abuse is bad, you don't have to learn this by needing to watch Takopi. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, sure, go ahead. Tell the world that because of Takopi, you figured out that abuse is bad and bad parenting should be avoided. Great message, mate. So what? Will you start working towards the prevention of such cruelties now that you've learned of these things? Or are you simply virtue signaling and once the Takopi discourse dies down, you've moved on to the next trending topic? I'm not saying that everyone who watched Takopi is like this, but it's alarming that there are parts of the audience that are likely doing this very thing. Virtue signaling at the expense of Shizuka and the kids. And one more thing before I end this video, for those who are saying that the villains of this show are the parents, I'm going to give you something to think about. Did we find out in the anime why they did what they did? What do I mean by this? Take Marina's mother, for example. She abuses Marina. Obviously, that's bad. But do we know for certain that she's abusing Marina with malicious intent? If you have proof that she did so maliciously, then sure, call her a villain. But we both know that prior to the events involving Shizuka's mother, Marina's mother wasn't like this. She's a good mother in every scene prior to her breakdown. Now, let's move to Shizuka's mother. Want to call her a villain? Are we forgetting that her husband left her? Or at least her partner if they're not married? I'm not saying that she's absolved of any wrongdoing because of it. But have you considered that her actions are probably more of a consequence of being in a broken family as opposed to simply acting with malicious intent? Likewise, when the fathers in the show did what they did, do we know for certain that the mothers of Shizuka and Marina are faultless? Or what about Naoki's mother? Do we know for certain that her actions involving Naoki are done so with malicious intent? For all we know, Naoki's mother could be a product of bad parenting as well, and what she has done to Naoki never felt wrong to her because that's all she knew about parenting. The point that I'm trying to make is that we don't know for certain why the parents in this anime are like this. So to simply paint them as villains, it doesn't seem fair. Think about it. Can you confidently say that whatever circumstances these parents had prior to their bad actions, if those circumstances happened to you, you wouldn't end up doing what these parents have done? If you are confident in saying so, good for you. You may throw a stone at them. Otherwise, maybe try to be a bit more considerate. Learn all the facts first before making absolute judgments. So, yeah, that's it from me for Takopi's Original Sin. Until next time then, everyone.